Yes, I did.
I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to call the budget meeting to order. Thank you, Kyle, as usual. I can do it on paper. When we get into these kinds of things, sometimes it's a little more difficult for me. Jessica, I know can do this. Jessica, are we going to have any visits tonight?
Yeah, the dog was already here.
Oh,
They might come back.
Missed them. So what we're going to do tonight, and hopefully, I don't think this will take 2 hours, for Mr. Garvis, Mr. Finley, traditionally what we do is we have a budget meeting once a quarter. Regardless of what's going on in the world, it's to give us a status update on how we're doing, money versus projections, bills versus projections, and the anticipated anything, that may have arisen. So this is traditionally our second quarter meeting. We'll have another one in the fall. And that's where we focus not only how are we doing, but we start focusing on, believe it or not, 2021. I can't believe I'm going to say that number. So somebody told me today the number 3,000. That's how far they were planning. I'm like, well, I won't be here, but geez, 3,000. So I'm going to turn the meeting over. Any question is acceptable because what you may ask may be something someone else didn't think of, and it'll be relevant. So you should have all three documents. Hopefully you printed them. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Veras, aka Kevin.
Okay. Everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. There's 3 handouts, as Jan was saying. The Rita Collections handout, which on the bottom shows cash flow and expenditure changes proposed to the budget. Another single page, which is a 1-page summary. I think it's the first time you've seen that, of the 3-page spreadsheet. So I'll start with the Rita Collections. As you can see, we have 4 months of actual, and then I'm projecting a 50% cut or reduction in collections for May through September, and then only a 25% reduction for the last 3 months of 2020. Based on those projections, the general fund, if you look to the middle of the page, would lose about 2.3 million. The revenue program, about 65,000. Parks and Rec and Family Rec Center, about 105 each. And then the road program would lose about 383. Now the Safety Service Fund, I'm projecting only to lose 25,000 because last year we only had 11 months of collection because it was the first year for that fund, and Rita's a month behind, month and a half behind in collections. So
let me ask one quick on the collections.
Yeah.
How long did Rita extend the filing to?
They did a 3-month extension to July 15th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And then we did a corresponding 3-month add-on to our 7/15 to 10/15. All right, so then the bottom third of that, Rita, shows what the mayor and I went over pretty much over the last month. We've been meeting on this on occasion. For general fund, we're looking at a reduction of full-time wages of 700,000 through the annual increase adjustment, a hiring freeze, and reduction to 32 hours from 40 hours. The part-time wages, we're looking at a $250,000 reduction related to annual increase adjustment and layoff of part-timers. And then we were reducing transfers out of the general fund. We were going to send 50,000 to the retirement reserve. We were going to send 135,000 to Family Rec Center. 350,000 was going to capital improvement. That was going to be for the parking lot at the Family Rec Center. 105 was going to kind of round out the road program. And municipal property, we were going to send 465,000 to. to start put some money away for our teacher service department facility. And then we're increasing some transfers in to that general fund, 100,000 from the refund program. Let's see. Reserve. And I have listed, this is a potential move, but we're not moving it yet, the 500,000. So that would be up for discussion, kind of like the governor said, they're not touching their rainy day fund yet. And I don't think we'll need to yet, because I don't have that in the 3-page summary. And we're still projected to have $1,168,000 in the general fund after this year, at the end of the year, with still 500,000 in the emergency reserve and 450,000 in the retirement reserve. So that's just there kind of as a reminder that we have it if we need it. Family Rec Center.
When you talk about 1.68, the rainy day fund is not included in that, correct? It's separate?
1.168, correct. That's just general fund.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we looked at basically the funds that have some, a lot of payroll. Family Rec Center obviously has a lot of payroll. Looking at a payroll reduction there of 135,000, and we're pushing back some planned capital of 140,000. I mean, if the place doesn't open for another couple of months, that payroll number is going to increase. But we're still waiting to hear if there's going to be any local funding help from the federal government. Yet there has not been. So if there is, and it can go towards payroll, we might be able to open up that center sooner than later. Capital Improvement Fund. I already kind of mentioned that we reduced the Family Rec Center parking lot, 350. Fire department's deferring their staff vehicle of 50,000. And the service department planned capital of 50,000 for a tandem truck is being pushed to next year. None of
them were ordered, correct?
No, those weren't ordered.
Okay.
The road program, we reduced the overall appropriation by 105. Municipal property, a slight reduction, but I had to mention it anyways, just because it is a reduction of 15,000. So we should be getting May's reconciliation. What's today? A week from today. So I can update this spreadsheet a week from today. That would be, converting May's estimate to a May actual, because we already have the advance in for May. Kind of anticipating, the mayor and I are waiting to see what May looks like, because April was really March and part of February's collection. So, May will be some of April and some of March. So, it's more into the COVID pandemic period, if you will. So it should give a little more, accurate indication of effect, but we probably won't see the real effect till July or August. One thing that changed comparing this year to last year is Rita pushed back the due date from 4/15 to 7/15. So your April numbers, which everybody's paying in April, show up in May. So that's not going to happen this year. So it's not really comparing apples to apples from a April 15th to April 15th. So that throws a little wrench in the cog there. So any questions on this? I could then relate this to the spreadsheet, the 3-page spreadsheet.
And our refund date has been pushed to December or October?
October 15th.
Okay.
We're still
What date is it here?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jan, what did you say is being pushed to October?
The refund date. So I don't have to file until July 15th and I have till October 15th if I am eligible for a refund to file that paperwork.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So you may collect the money and then you give it back.
Yeah, we're working on that too.
Yep.
All right, so if you look at the 3-page spreadsheet with all the pretty colors on it, you'll see. I'll go fund by fund, so horizontally. General fund's the first one. So you see the first actual change, really that first column, everything pretty much changed because the last spreadsheet you saw was an estimated amount at the beginning of the year of unencumbered balances. So we started the year in the general fund at 2.6 million of unencumbered balance. The first change is the income tax, and if it's in orange, it's kind of COVID-19 related. And I put a little negative 2.3 million. So I reduced the general fund income tax estimate by 2.3 million. Probably about 25% of the total that was there. 8.9. A transfer in, you'll see that from 14 of 104,834.39. What that is, that's coming from the water M&E fund. And when we were putting together support for the audit of 12/31/2019, we noticed that there was an error in posting of the fire contract fourth quarter payment, and it was posted incorrectly to the water M&E fund. So we're moving that with a transfer back to the general fund. So that was kind of a good thing to find when we needed to find money for the general fund. And then going across, you'll see the orange. I reduced that 11, down to 11,792,900. That's the 700,000 and the 250 from the bottom third of the RETA form. The rest of that changes as we go along here, the advances and transfers out. So there was an emergency reserve, the next fund. The only change, there was none. Right now, there's nothing. So that line stays the same at 500,000. Started with 500,000, and we're hoping it'll end with 500,000. Same thing with the unclaimed fund. There's no change there. The retirement reserve, there was a transfer in of 50,000, as I mentioned before. It's now 0. And I don't know, I haven't heard of any retirements this year, but we have 50,000 allocated in case somebody retires this year for any of their unused vacation or comp time, any of their unused benefits. The refund program, I'm reducing the income tax estimate by 60,000, and we're transferring out 100,000 to Parks and Rec because is Mark Gigetti? I don't think he's on. Is he on here, Mark?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Do you want to explain why we might need some of that money?
Yeah, so right now we have a concession lease agreement. It was originally with Club Golf, now it's with Windmill. And as part of the terms of the agreement, we are responsible for maintaining the infrastructure that Windmill leases. That includes the parking lot, which is in pretty poor condition if anybody's driven in it recently. So we pursuant to that agreement, we need to really take a hard look because we put it off for a couple of years at repaving it. And, I don't think that's a very low cost project, but we're working on that. And we're currently in discussions with Windmill's owners to see, even though the contract requires the city to do it, maybe they'll partner with us on the cost, given the pandemic and everything going on. So that those funds may be necessary for that purpose, though.
Yeah, and to follow up on Mark's explanation, I increased the appropriations up to 170,000. Should we need to include that parking lot in our repair work this coming summer?
Are they open?
They actually went to arbitration over it, and I think they're awaiting an arbitration decision because the county would not allow them to open
Okay.
the driving range. I think that the shop may be open currently.
They're opening the driving range, Mark, on, I just got an email today. The driving range is now open, and they give you the list that you have to maintain all of the recommendations for safe gatherings and social
They must have-
distancing and everything.
Okay, they must have been successful with the arbitration then. I think they said 12 other counties had allowed the ranges to open, so they were kind of modeling their approach after them, and I know they had a bunch of safety measures in place ready to go, so.
Yes, they posted that. They put that out today
Okay.
and
Okay.
a regular email.
I'm going to
to
tell you
subscribe.
from the residents' point of view, that would not be a necessity. They would tell you to go across the street and fix the parking lot at the rec center before you do that driveway that goes into a golf course driving range that's owned by others, even though they pay us a fee. So we may want to think
Well,
twice.
Jan, it's not just for the golf course.
after
Jan, we
some-
also, use that driveway for all the soccer fields over there. So that's what we're really, and my dogs are barking, so I'll shut up.
Yeah, but all the soccer's canceled. Put yourself in a residence. Is that a necessity? No.
Well, it's the county's call, and the county did say it was not an essential service, which is why they tried to block it. But pursuant to the arbitration procedure that they followed, apparently with what Vinny's saying, they must have been successful, and it must be now categorized as an essential service, or at least a service that's permitted to operate under the governor's order. So.
Mark, I think Jan is talking about us spending money on the parking lot and the driveway as opposed to doing the rec center.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, because we're
Yeah,
not.
I mean, it's a contractual requirement, and obviously we don't want to expose ourselves to trip and falls and that kind of thing if it's really in poor shape. So there's that consideration as well. But
Do we have the money that we get from them in a separate account that we could use that money? The very little amount of money that we get from the golf.
yeah, I think Mr. Veras has looked at that. I just don't think there's enough in there to cover it.
I mean, at
Right.
least it would tell people we're using city money, but it's money that came from that enterprise. But otherwise, I don't think it's going to fly pretty well if they see people paving that driveway. And hello, what is that baby's name?
This is Grady, and that back there, that's Morgan. Jan, you just have to remember to explain to people that, we do have residents that play on those soccer fields. We do control the soccer fields. And there's a lot of people that use those soccer fields every day. So when people complain and the funds for the Windmill Golf lease, that is under control of the Parks and Recs Commission. So that's being used for other stuff. So we can't just, say, well, they paid us a lease, so we're gonna take care of the parking lot. That, the real reason is, it's our property. They pay money to us to maintain the property. It's in the contract.
Right.
Residents do use those soccer fields, and they use them a lot. So it's not just for making a golf course look nicer. There are reasons why we should be doing this, and the cost of this driveway and parking lot is less than half of what the rec center is. So it's something that needs to be done, and it's what we can afford. So make sure you let residents know that it's not just us making a better golf course. There's good reasons that why we're appropriating those funds.
Yeah, it's a
All-
fund of
all-
the soccer league. I agree with that. However, at this point in time, soccer's canceled and we still have an outhouse on that. And I keep bringing up, when are we gonna do something to get them a real bathroom? So, you know, I understand that at some point it has to be done. I'm just an advocate that not right now.
Can we, Mark, this question basically goes to you. If we don't do this in a timely manner, can they pull out or sue us for breach of contract?
Yeah, they could. We're obviously in discussion with them, and it's possible that they may contribute to the project to kind of lighten the load on the city. But yeah, if we don't do it, it is possible they could go that route. Yep.
Thank you.
Can I continue?
Go for it.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We don't see you, so yeah.
So to answer one of Jan's questions, about half of that money for the improvements would be coming out of a special fund that the money was generated from receipts from that site. So up to 106 technology advancement. We were going to transfer in 100,000 from the refund program, and we were going to allocate 100,000 towards the technology advancement, but we moved that money instead down to the Parks and Rec Trust for what we were just discussing, in case we needed to fulfill our obligation to repair the parking lot. And we still have about 250,000 encumbered from last year for technology advancement expenditures for this year. The SCM&R fund, we haven't made any changes to that yet. So keep in mind, there's some payroll that comes out of there. So if anything, the appropriations would go down instead of up. State Highway, I didn't make any changes to that fund. Permissive license tax, Joe Gelati and I and the mayor identified 2 projects that are eligible for permissive license tax. So we have to apply to the county, Steve Bruno, to show him what we plan to use the money for, and then he approves it and gives it to us, and we're going to use it for, if you look at page 2 of the road program down at the bottom, under the kind of middle of the page, 219,000, I indicate that the source of that is permissive license tax, and that's for Highland, South Bedford to Empire, and then 140,000 permissive license tax, South Bedford, Mill and Fill. So those are the 2 projects that are coming from permissive license tax. It's our money, but the county holds it until they approve what we're using it for. And we get about $5,000 a month in permissive license tax. Parks
Can
and
we
Rec.
advise that has already started also? They were on South Bedford today.
Okay. And what we do is we as we pay an app for a contractor, we'll ask for partial reimbursement from the county, so we don't have to front the money very long. So Parks and Rec 204 fund, I'm reducing the municipal income tax by 100,000, and because of that, I had to transfer in 75,000 from the general fund. Nothing has been reduced on the appropriation side, and there are some wages that get paid out of there. So, as we get further into this and kind of see how long this is going to go, we have actual dollars spent on wages, with the 32 hours, etc. No part-timers, a hiring freeze. We'll get a better projection of wages as we go along, and I can make further adjustments to the appropriations. Family Rec Center, reduced municipal income tax by 100,000, reduced the transfer in to 205. By 135,000, and some reduction, as I mentioned, in the appropriations for remodeling, planned capital deferral, and some payroll reductions. And again, payroll, as I mentioned earlier, for Family Rec, 135. You know, we probably went through that already, with the closure being almost a month and a half now. So again, we'll keep an eye on wages as we go along and adjust down the road. I already went over the Parks and Rec Trust. Spirit of Macedonia, I just left these numbers in there. We're not doing anything. You know, it's been canceled, so I mean, down the road I could clean this up, but it really doesn't matter to the auditors one way or the other. Water M&E, the only change here is a transfer out of that 104 that was recorded incorrectly in the fourth quarter last year. Now, I'm happy to say, and I think I told the mayor this last week, that with the first half collections in property tax, our collections went up, say $12,000. So you double that typically. So our collections should go up about 24,000 because of the switch to the property tax bill. And it's a lot calmer in the finance department at this time of the year right now. The fire levy, just cleaning this up and transferring out the balance to the safety service fund. So that fund is, at the end of this year, will be zero. No other changes for the rest of the page. If you want to go to page 2. K9 fund, I didn't change anything. Quiet zone, John Notavange had some requests to make some repairs to the quiet zone. So I bumped up that, and you know, this is self-sufficient. This changes. There was enough money at the beginning of the year. So I went from 1,000 to 5,000. The ARRA grant fund, there were no changes. Federal fire grant, no changes. Law enforcement trust, no changes. Federal equitable share, no changes. The safety service fund, I mentioned the 106,000 coming in from the fire levy fund. Now the borrowing, that 400,000 is for the 800 megahertz radios. We're having, fire chiefs having difficulty getting pricing. So I don't know if that'll happen by the end of the year. If it does, we're borrowing for it, and he doesn't know if 400,000 will be enough, but he's not getting pricing. So it's kind of a wait and see on that one. And I just kind of broke out the appropriation on into 3 numbers, so it's more understandable. Wages and benefits, I don't think we're going to hit that because of the hiring freeze, because we were going to add another police officer and it was going to come out of this fund. Capital items, those are detailed on the 5-year capital plan, and then the RETA retainer fund. And then the transfer out for the aerial tower debt, that number did not change. Nothing changed with the general bond retirement. Special assessment fund, not not sure how many council members are aware yet, or if I explained it. What I found, you'll see at the beginning balance of this fund that I created last year, because you should be paying your special assessments out of a fund designated for special assessments. That way you know if you're collecting enough for your debt. Well, last year it looks like we didn't. So I researched that at the beginning of this year, first quarter, and found out that there were 7 parcels in the North Freeway Drive Special Assessment Project that either had not paid or were not being billed by the county, which added up to, one of them was a $13,800 annual payment that hadn't been made since 2010. And 6 parcels near the bottom of that large parcel between North Freeway Drive and the railroad tracks. 6 parcels 4 years ago were consolidated into one, and the county sent an email October of 2016. I'm assuming to the finance office, and they asked, well, what should we do with these assessments? Should we put them on a new consolidated parcel? And they never got an answer, so they didn't do anything. So Mark Gigetti and I called. We had a conference call with the county maybe a week and a half ago. I just sent them another email this afternoon. The one parcel that hasn't paid in 10 years will probably end up getting it through the land bank. Mark Gigetti's working through that process. And then they told us we can reallocate the remaining years on the assessment for those 6 parcels that hadn't paid for the last 4 years. So I'm trying to get into the second half billing of this year, and we'll see what happens. I'm trying to build a whole 2020 collection year in the second half this year. If not, then we'll have to reallocate over the rest of the years. But I know the Cuyahoga County extended their due date for the second half payment. So I don't know if all the counties will follow suit, and if that delays the mailing and production of the invoices. So I'll keep you updated on that. So to make up for the shortfall, I had to advance money in from the general fund and to pay the debt for this year as well. So as that money comes in from the money that wasn't collected, we will then pay back the general fund. Other debt, no change there. Capital improvements, the one change, reduce the transfer in by 350,000. Same line across, the family rec parking lot got reduced by 150,000. Some small changes. I added a closure of 2019 POs that added up to 21,000, and the sewer district and community cost share money that's available after Joe and I met a couple times. I added that, and the Cleveland Water Project, you'll see that 324,500. That's a dollar for dollar. And we actually already got the check. And I think the project has started. Ledgeview Road, 8-inch water main replacement. The road program I reduced. Oh, I skipped over. There were no changes in the safety service fund. I had talked about that earlier. My projection, I didn't make any changes because last year I went off of last year's collections, and that was on an 11-month collection. So there was no reduction in the safety service fund estimate. The road program, I'm projecting a $375,000 reduction in RETA collections. Because of that, had to transfer in $45,300 from the general fund. Went over the 219 and the 140 already from permissive tax for the Highland from South Bedford to Empire and South Bedford Mill and Fill. A transfer in, we're closing Fund 422, which is down there at the bottom of the page. Shepherd Road Sanitary Sewer. I'm guessing that was back when that fund was created, back when OPWC required municipalities to create a fund for each OPWC project. So that project has been long finished and makes sense to move the money into a road program fund. The next three sources of revenue are Tif revenues, and I'm working with the county on correcting how they distribute the Tif revenues. We did get money from KFC and Culver's, but we received all of the money from the first half of the collections. Ohio Revised Code says that in the ordinance, in the TIF ordinance itself, it says that the county treasurer shall pay the school district the same amount it would have received had this ordinance not even existed. So I had to make a copy of that page, send a page for each one. I had to do that for Macedonia shops and McGuire properties last year. So you thought maybe they would kind of catch on and do the same thing for these two this year, but they didn't. And I just don't understand it, because we're not the only community in Summit County that has TIFs. But anyways, so I'm not estimating anything yet coming in from KFC and Culver's, but there will be some transfers in at some point down the road this year once they straighten out their processes and let me know. You know, because right now I'm basically holding money for the schools. A portion of both collections from both TIFs, I'm holding on to. It should have went to the schools. We're borrowing for the write-in, write-out special assessment project that should be going out to bid shortly. The other half of the Highland South Bedford to Empire is being supported by OPWC money. So I added that. So 50-50, 219, 50% of the project's OPWC grant, and then the other 50% we're paying for with the permissive license tax. And then I added some community cost share. Some of the road program bid items are eligible for any ORSD community cost share. So Joe Gelati identified 89,000 of those. And then we closed a couple 2019 POs, road program related, which put $262,200 back into the road program. Any questions on the road program? Because that's a large expenditure for us.
I have just a simple question, and if you want to answer it later, I'm fine with that. But with the projected loss of 175,000, what does that mean we have to not do?
There were some alternates. It wasn't a whole lot, Jeff. What it did is, if you look at the beginning balance of the fund, which started at 738, our projected ending balance is 53,000. So from a project standpoint, we're still doing the projects pretty much that we wanted to this year. We're just as we're getting further into this road program process, I think this is the third year for it. And you're going through the list of roads. You know, you didn't know how much money was going to be coming in. You didn't know how to exactly spend it by year.
Right.
So now you're 3 years into it, and you can go with a lower balance. I mean, we'd like to have a higher balance at the end of this year, and hopefully we will, because I think my projections are on Rita are very conservative from a revenue standpoint.
Okay. Because my second question was going to be, what if the RETA projections are wrong and we actually get even less income tax revenue than we think for
Yeah.
whatever reason, right? Because maybe less people end up going back to work than we anticipate, stuff like that.
Right. I mean, we're watching it almost daily. We get collections twice a month. And to be honest with you, so far this year, we're above last year's collection.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
So for the first 4 months, we're above last year's collection. So I don't.
Can I ask you a quick question? And the same with the road program?
Mhm.
No projection that the unencumbered balance would be 593,000. Now it's 52,000. When I'm looking at the one that we went through at our last meeting, it's a 500,000 short.
You might be. Were you talking about? I think you might be talking about the beginning balance, or no?
No, it's the same line across.
And it was the last. It was the right hand side.
Yeah. So you know where your 52,973 is?
Right.
It was 593.
Right. So 375,000 of that is income tax related. 375 plus 53 is 428. So it's not that far off from, you know, basically it's the RETA collections for the most part. And
Yeah, because it goes down by half, 500,000.
yeah, well, what we did is we added road pavement markings. We're going to do those annually now. And we bumped road materials up from a $50,000 amount to 100. So there's another 100 right there. So that's 528. What did you say the ending balance was prior to this?
593,973.
That's pretty close. Any other questions on the road program? All right, hearing none. We already talked about the Shepherd Road sanitary municipal property. I kind of mentioned already. We eliminated the transfer in of 465,000. I eliminated 15,000 in expenditures, and the muni property follows or falls into the top of page 3. We're still estimating $1 million coming in from the big carrot, which would be set aside for currently, set aside for service department building. I don't know if Mark wants to talk about how big the carrot is.
I do not.
Okay. But that if we do get any money from the big carrot, that's where it'll come into, or we plan to put it. Nothing else changed on page 3, but like I said, Culver's and KFC, we did get 100% of the TIF. Basically, we got everything they paid to the county. They forwarded to us, which again is not correct. So once they straighten out that down at the county, I'll put a number in for estimated revenue for both. The ambassador football, I know we've talked about that briefly, Jan. I think I remember talking about that. I think it was a Zoom meeting or Teams meeting. They are a TIF. They are, proposing to become a 501c3, so they decided not to pay their property tax bill. That's why we don't have any revenue coming in from that TIF. So depending on what happens with their request to become a 501c3, we may or may not ever see TIF money from the Ambassador football facility.
Can they retroactively do that?
Well, the Cleveland Clinic did. They haven't been there that long. I know you could go back. Well, if you stop, yeah, you can just stop. I mean, the clinic stopped paying taxes for like 9 years until it was settled. Because when I was finance director in Independence, there's a few facilities here that they had, and the schools were being hit rather hard by that loss in property tax revenue, and it was growing year after year after year. And so, I guess as part of the settlement agreement that the clinic had, they didn't have to pay any of the back taxes or penalties. This one doesn't go that far back, but
Can I back up 1 second to the municipal property?
yeah.
We increased that by $500,000. So is the bone person, who I know who it is and will say, have they already agreed to it that we've increased it?
What do you mean you increased it?
Well, the municipal property, last time we talked, was ending balance of 503,000. Now you got it at 1,038,000.
Well, the 503 was probably just the transfer in plus beginning balance, because the transfer in was 465,000. So I took the transfer in out and I put the estimated sales price in. So the ending balance is estimated to be a 1,038,000, if that makes sense. I'm sorry, it's divvied up on the 2 pages. I should have caught that before I printed it out, because there's room on page 3. I'm thinking that's why it's about 500,000 off.
Do we have agreement yet for that estimated revenue? Mark, it's just a yes or no.
No, not yet. We don't.
Okay.
So there's no other further changes
That's who
on
it is.
it's the big C. So my 1-page summary, I don't know if I've shown you the 1-page summary yet, but it takes the 3 pages and groups similar funds, large, allocates individually the larger funds, and I highlighted in blue any changes from the annual budget that we passed. So, the beginning balances obviously changed once we closed the year, and they were higher, which is a good thing. You see the muni tax changed from the revenue standpoint, the road program and other income, because those funds, the other income includes funds 204, 205, which is part of their revenue sources, municipal income tax. The general fund changed from an expense standpoint. We added 50,000 for retirement reserve, reduced technology advancement by 100,000. Family rec center and safety services changed. They were reduced. The trust fund expenses changed. Those were reduced. Other funds changed as well, but they're all those changes come from those 3 pages and are indicated separately on the 3 pages. And then the ending balance down at the bottom. The unencumbered balances change, obviously, with changes to revenue and appropriations. So projection-wise, down at the bottom of the page, the auditors look at funds 101 through 106 as the general fund. They allow you to segregate for rainy day and retirement reserve and technology advancement. But for their reporting purposes, they group those together. So we're projected to have almost 2.2 million in what the auditors would call the general fund at the end of the year. We're starting with 3.7687. So a 1.6-ish drop in general fund estimated balance.
And is that with or without us using the emergency fund? That is without.
That's without, correct. Because it's 500 beginning, 500 ending in the emergency fund. 450 left in the retirement reserve fund too.
Jan, you're muted.
You're muted, Jim.
You're muted.
Unmuted once. Are there any other questions, Jeff, Dave, Benny, Jessica? Do we have a?
I don't have any.
Do you have one, Dave?
No, I don't. I'm good.
Okay. Do we have a way, Kyle, to raise our hand on this? Instead of we talk over each other, we can talk about that.
No, not that I know of, unfortunately.
Okay, I know the one, of course, the one we used at AT&T was the mothership, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff?
I just have a generic question about the way the funds are allocated, and if this is a really complicated answer and you want to like take it offline, John, I'm totally fine with it. But you know, every time we go through these, oftentimes we'll say, oh, well, this fund also includes a little bit of payroll for so and so, and then we'll go to another fund and we'll say, oh, well, this fund includes some payroll for, you know, so and so's department. And I'm just curious why payroll isn't segregated into like a fund that basically says this is payroll for department X, right? So it's more clear. Is there a reason and a methodology behind that, or just where we've ended up after years of
No, there definitely is a methodology behind it, because there's funds you pretty much can't pay payroll out of. But, you know, our general fund, obviously, our operating fund, you can pay payroll out of.
Okay. But you couldn't make payroll specific funds just so you knew how much a given department was using to operate versus how much it was being used to fund staff, right? You have to, there's no easy way to delineate that out into different funds. So it's.
No, but the actual ordinance that you guys vote on has personnel column and the other column.
Okay.
And you'll see that I didn't want to prepare it until, I don't want to assume anything until you guys review all this.
Right.
So I'll prepare that for Monday to be sent out. Is that okay, Mark, to add it before Tuesday?
Yeah, as long as I get it before like 4 p.m. on Tuesday, that's.
Oh, sure. I'll have it to you Monday.
Okay.
We have had it, Jeff, I'm trying to find a copy, but we do get it when we're working on the annual budget. It shows
Right,
the
right.
department, and within that department, it'll show salary, capital expenses. Take example for council. It'll
Yep.
show salary, which includes us and Amanda. It'll show any capital, and it breaks it down.
Right.
But this is more of a high level summary.
Makes sense. Yeah. It's just, I just from when we go over it, it's kind of hard to comprehend. How much is that? How much is of a given budget is being used to do you know, things that cost money as opposed to paying for the headcount of people that do it. And sometimes it seems like you might have different employees being paid out of different budgets, but they do similar roles, right? And that
Right.
might just be me trying to get used to how it's done. And
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I could tell you SCM&R, street construction, maintenance and repair fund. There's typically wages coming out of there for your road maintenance people. Happens in Independence, it happens in Glen Willow. The Family Rec Center, you know, makes sense to have wages come out of there. Parks and Rec,
Right.
and we have one person out of Water M&E, but then we created the Safety Service Fund to pay for 3 firefighters, 1 police officer, and 1 service worker to kind of replace the fire levy fund, which was used to pay for wage and benefits. You know, we could not pay for wages out of the federal fire grant. We couldn't pay for wages out of the quiet zone maintenance. You know, your bond funds, you can't pay for wages out of there. Your capital improvement, you can't pay for
Makes
wages.
sense.
Yeah. But yeah, we can go in further detail because, you know, we still have to do our Finance 101 at some point. And, you know,
Well, I think if we could show it for the 2021 budget of how we were accustomed to getting it, which shows the breakdown by department, professional services, legal services, somebody we all know and love, property tax, contract services, that's just under the administrative support. That'll also help that when you talk at a higher level, folks will know, yes, we have this as our background paper. But when I take all of this one line equals all of this. So
Right.
101, 5310, 5340, 5610. If you could do that for the 2021 budget, when we start
Sure.
talking about it.
Yeah.
That'll help, because that'll really, it'll answer Jeff's question. It also then will make our quarterly reviews would be easy, because we'll say, oh, I know what goes into this because I have this other.
right. And you do get the monthly year-to-date expense report. I think it was just emailed out this week. And that has each line item.
Yeah. So Jeff, take a look at that, because we do get it. It's just when we go to summaries.
Yep.
it's
No,
not always-
that makes sense.
It's
Yeah, I
not
just
easy to remember what's in what.
yeah, and it was just like a more so a generic question than, you know,
Yeah.
why is it done that way, right? I get it. It does make
Okay.
sense.
Do you have any others?
No, I think the other ones that I had written down while John was going through this, I was trying to just save them and ask them all at once, but you actually answered most of them, and I'm good.
Okay.
Vinny?
Well, the Brown schedule is about to come out, so I got to go.
Individual tickets are going to be sold shortly.
I know. That's
I'm
why I
waiting for
got to go.
Indians opening day so I can sit in the stands next to John and scream.
Yeah.
Vinny, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good right now, taking in all of this. I think I'm satisfied with where we're at this particular point in time.
Okay, Jessica, anything else?
Everything was a good, thorough explanation. Thank you very much, John.
You're welcome. Thank your dogs too.
They're outside now.
Oh, okay.
If there are no, Amanda, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you have any questions? I know this is very high level, but
Oh, it's okay. I've been through these before. It's nothing.
well, and I think at some point in time, we could just do John, you and I, you know, so if you want to
Yeah.
understand, have questions, it'll make it easier. We can do, as he said, 101.
Okay. Yeah, I've been through these
Kind of like,
at the
Mark-
township before, so.
yeah, Mark does a legal 101. So where's the little one? It's off.
Oh, her dad just came and picked her up, so I know you guys probably didn't see her because I wasn't talking. So she was literally sitting here watching you guys hugging and kissing me.
But she wasn't throwing dirt.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That was the other day.
She was awful.
Yeah.
She was so
Okay,
awful.
Mr. Bears, do you have anything else?
I'm good.
No, you're not good. You're excellent.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Excellent.
I
We
can
always excellent. Mayor, do you have anything you want to add?
I'm pretty sure we hit it all here. Unless there's a question for me, I'll answer anything you've got.
Anybody? If not, we'll finish this up early. I didn't think it would take more than an hour because John's always good and succinct. And it basically updated what we had just gone over in the last meeting. I want to leave you with this. I hope you all saw the note about next Thursday. I totally forgot we have to do the cemetery annual meeting, and that's always done at the first meeting in May. So we had the cemetery meeting today, and I'm like, oops. So they will be on at 7. We'll push our work session to 6:30. Amanda, you don't need to take minutes or notes from that meeting. The administrator / secretary / I'm not sure what Jeff Snell's called officially. He handles all that, but it is recorded and it's open for cemetery board is made up of 3 representatives of all the 4 communities, but at the annual meeting, all the representatives of all 4 communities are invited. Do they all attend? No. But we'll see what happens this year because we've had some changes with, unfortunately, our administrator passing away and having someone new. So that's it. If not, thank you so
Jan?
much. Yeah.
Jan,
Yes.
are you going to have the summer schedule set up
The what?
by next Thursday? The summer council
Oh, yeah,
schedule.
we'll propose that at the meeting.
Right.
We traditionally do second meeting in May, second meeting in June, second meeting in July, first meeting in August. Those are usually the ones canceled. I don't anticipate us veering away from that, so we can all plan on some time off. Not sure you're gonna be able to go anywhere, but you get, well,
Can't go out of Ohio, right?
yeah. Well, NOPEC is thinking of having a meeting, and I said, but it won't be in Florida. They talk about Columbus. I said, let's go to Cedar Point. Heck with it. Maybe that would be fun. But absolutely, Vinny, if you want to write that down and you can make the motion under new business.
Okay.
And that's just the motion to cancel those meetings.
Well,
Okay, we're going to
should-
cancel the second.
The second
Go ahead.
meeting in May, second meeting in May, second meeting in June, second meeting in July, first meeting in August. We always did the July and August so that you actually had more time if you were going to do anything. That's been forever. So unless someone has a problem with that, I say we do the same thing. If we need any special meetings, just be aware, we may have to call a special meeting if the mayor has something that's arisen, but we'll see what happens.
Jan, why would we cancel the second meeting in May?
We only need 1 meeting a month and because it's Memorial Day.
Oh, okay.
That's-
Jeff, have you, I'm sure your wife, her schedule is everything is all in disarray right now. Have you or her had a chance to talk about what would be okay with her and your family schedule?
I appreciate you bringing that up, but with everything that's gone on, I am not too worried about it.
Okay.
We haven't booked anything. We're not going anywhere. So, I mean, we'll play it by ear and we'll probably work around that.
Okay.
That's what
But
we
thank
need
you.
to do
I
is,
appreciate that.
as a council, we need to buy a boat because that's one of the only things you can do is take a boat out.
Oh,
Now, we can't all go at once, but everybody could take their family on the boat. Greg
Yep.
would never come off because he likes to fish, but
We all have to boat with Greg.
yeah, he'll be your captain and he won't go on a cruise because you can't fish off a cruise boat. So, but yeah. And I don't know if anybody has a camper, but those campgrounds are not open yet. So My niece is all upset.
I believe Hocking Hills has reopened.
Have they?
I believe they have.
I know the beaches in South Carolina are supposed to start opening next week, so it'll be good. Jeff, there may be vacation on the horizon.
There may be, but we don't have anything officially booked or anything like that.
But you can't do Disney because they haven't figured it out yet.
I know that's going to be, and when they do, I don't think it's going to be fun.
No, it's going to be very few people. I wonder if they'll be able to have the characters. Can you try? How could you stop a 4-year-old from running up to hug one of those characters? You can't. Not going to happen. So.
Nope.
All right, everyone keep safe. Glad to see you all look good. If you need anything, we're always here. Mr. Barros, go buy your Browns tickets. And we'll talk next week. Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you,
Have a good evening.
Kyle.
Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful night.
Bye.
Thank you, Kyle.
Good night, everybody. Hey, Dave,
Bye, guys.
when you get a chance, can you